All righty, everybody. Welcome to the Paws Postgame show. I am Jake Gibson, and we have a final from Pitbull Stadium. It is the Owls who get the win by a final score of 45-26. So let's just talk about it. Maybe try to get out of here as soon as we can, because that was that a disappointing game or what? Especially. Hold up as I get the Instagram people up and running here. All right. Especially coming off the heels of that win over Western Kentucky. Was that a stinker for the ages or what? My gosh. That was a bad loss. All things considered, there's not a whole lot to talk about regarding that. Yeah. As I get my stats here so we can talk about this a bit more. But the first half, coming out of halftime, it really felt like there was a good chance that FIU could come and turn things around. And when the second half started, I thought that was gonna be the case. They were only down by a touchdown. There was an opportunity there for FIU to win this game in the third quarter, and then it sort of slipped away. It slipped away there as soon as Noah Grant missed that chip shot field goal in the third quarter. And then literally right after that, only a couple plays after, Kennesaw State gets a 70-yard touchdown reception because Ashton Levels was injured on the play, which left the receiver wide the hell open Moss. So it felt like after that missed field goal, it felt like that was the turning point of the game because pretty much everything that came after that was an absolute disaster. You do manage another field goal like Grant, but then you give up 14 unanswered. You get a garbage time touchdown by Eric Nelson. It was a great play, but it was a great play by Nelson. It's nice for him to get a touchdown there in the end, maybe boost some morale there. But that was I'm not going to say stat padding, but it definitely felt you really shouldn't consider that when talking about the total stats because it was garbage time touchdown. I'm sorry. But when generally speaking here, this loss doesn't sting as much as, say, the loss to Delaware or UConn for that matter, because Delaware, UConn, and Kennesaw State are all great teams. Maybe UConn especially is an excellent team in FBS that maybe should belong in a power conference. Who knows? But I don't think the loss stings as much because, like I said, there was a moment in the third quarter, as a matter of fact, late in the third quarter, where it was a very close game. It was like 24-17 midway through the third quarter, and it felt like there was a real chance that FIU could come back and win this thing. It wasn't really like the Delaware game where, right, like a couple minutes into the second half, it felt like, all right, the game was over. Or even going into halftime against that Delaware game, it felt very likely that they weren't going to come back and win this game. Then UConn was a laugher. There was a moment in this game where FIU really had a great chance to win. And some parts of FIU's game still played really well against Kennesaw State, who is the top dog in Conference USA, as it would turn out. So, yeah, there are some moments and aspects of this game that leave me feeling kind of hopeful that you can at least get to 6 wins if you're FIU. There are 5 games to go, and there's going to be some challenges here and there. Don't get me wrong. No game is going to be a walkthrough for FIU. That's just not how this conference is set up. It feels like every member in Conference USA has a chance to win, even winless Sam Houston State, who had a great opportunity to win this past week. But it feels like if FIU can straighten some things that we saw from them that were not good tonight, they can go through and either win out or at least win enough to get to 6 wins, which gets them into a bowl game. This is probably, I would argue, it's Kennesaw State was the hardest opponent left on the schedule. that's to be determined with the way Jacksonville State's kind of looking to, run through CUSA. We'll have to wait and see on what Jacksonville State is truly made of. That's not going to be an easy game for sure. But up next, you have Missouri State, who has had a mediocre first season in FBS. You've had Middle Tennessee, who has had a pretty bad season thus far. And then I believe next is homecoming against Liberty, and Liberty has been definitely a mixed bag that's leaning towards having a really bad season so far. And then you have Jack State, which is probably going to be the next really tough game for FIU to win, but you're at least at home. And then you're on the road to take on Sam Houston, who, if fate might have it, still might be winless by then, looking for the first win on the final game of the season against FIU. Wouldn't that be interesting? So that's the way it's pretty much situated right now. Even with this loss, I still feel confident in the Panthers as far as getting to the 6-win mark. It's still very much there. Now, if you were an FIU sicko that believed that this team could compete for a CUSA title game after that win against Western Kentucky, A, I wouldn't blame you, and B, maybe look away from that, because especially after now you're 1-2 in Conference USA and you don't have the tiebreaker against Kennesaw State, who will in all likelihood make it there if they can keep this up and win out. I believe they have some cupcakes there too, at least to them. UTEP and New Mexico State. I still think 6 wins is possible, and that's probably what I'll leave you with here, is that I don't feel awful about this loss as I did after Delaware or UConn. Delaware, at the time, it felt like, wow, we really, this is going to be a rough year if we can't take down Delaware. But as it turns out, Delaware is one of the best teams in Conference USA. And then UConn, again, I knew they were a good team then, but as it turns out, they might be one of the best teams in Group of 5, Group of 6. So Jenkins, and again, these are including that final drive, which doesn't mean much, but still 296 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I believe it's the most passing yards he's thrown in a single game this season. Great game for him, all things considered. Missed a few passes here and there. There were a couple of throws that were off the mark and really had a chance to be intercepted. I believe one in the third quarter was like bobbled around, could have been picked. It just wasn't. But still, not a bad night from him, especially coming off some nagging pains after that hit he took and the many hits he took in that Western Kentucky game. Came out and didn't have a bad game, all things considered. Obviously, it was not enough to win, but the whole team wasn't really clicking that way. Receiving wise, no one really stood out that much. Alex Perry had a good game. 75 yards, 7 receptions. The lone passing touchdown was actually caught by Eric Nelson, who, like I mentioned, gets his first as a Panther, so that's cool to see. Rushing wise, it feels like a broken record saying this, but that was the most impressive part of FIU's team today. It was how dominant they looked at times against a Kennesaw State defense that stat wise has a better rush defense than Western Kentucky, and Keyshawn Owens still had quite a bit of yards. I know, from what I understand, there's a discrepancy with how many rushing yards Keyshawn Owens actually has. It says 151 here. It might actually be less than that. Still, he had a great game, a rushing touchdown. So did Anthony Carey. Carey had a really great game today as sort of the that duo in the backfield with him and Owens. They both looked good. Carey, eight rushes, 44 yards, and a score. The running game looked good against one of the better rush defenses in Conference USA, and that's very positive moving forward, I would say. If you can take down a rushing defense like Kennesaw State had entering this game, there might not be many opponents left on the schedule in which you can't do the same thing with. So it's just the passing game that needs to be better. There were a lot of dropped passes in this game. There were some off-the-mark passes thrown by Keyone, I get it, but there were a lot of drops, a lot of frustrating drops in this game. And when there weren't, and when the passes were on target and the balls were being caught, there were some very frustrating penalties committed by FIU in this game. And again, some of them very ticky-tack penalties, which you feel like FIU shouldn't get because they're at Pitbull Stadium. But they still got him anyways. 9 total penalties, 65 yards given up on both sides of the ball. Undisciplined football. especially after the Western Kentucky game. I spoke about this at the halftime report. Undisciplined football here and there. But I guess a bright spot would be for me as well if you pretend the 2 fourth down stops, the 2 turnovers on downs didn't happen. Jenkins didn't throw an interception. I believe there was 1 fumble that was immediately recovered. There were no lost fumbles, no turnovers that way through interceptions and fumbles, which is great. FIU needed to find ways to stay in the game, make a comeback. Turning the ball over wouldn't have helped them, and they didn't really do that until later in the game when they had to go for it on 4th down and couldn't do it. Noah Grant. Not a great game for him because he actually started off strong with that field goal, which let me double check here to see how long it was. I want to say 43. I'll double check here, verify. Yeah, there we go. A 43-yarder by Noah Grant, and it looked like it could have been good from 53. It was straight through the middle, had a lot of leg, and it felt great. It felt like, all right, we have ourselves a reliable kicker here in Grant. And then he misses a cheap shot 23-yarder, and then disaster strikes right after that. I don't know if it was the shirtless crowd right in front of him that distracted him or something, but gee whiz. Willie Simmons didn't botch words here. It's an easy kick that a kicker like Noah Grant that obviously has the leg and has the direction, the aim. We have a talented kicker in Noah Grant that couldn't hit a 23-yarder tonight. It's very frustrating. Obviously, he rebounded later, 28-yarder. That's great. Maybe a little long past needed because this team needed touchdowns in the 4th quarter to potentially make this a 1-score game again. They couldn't do it until garbage time touchdown. Very disappointing missed kick by Grant, and it was just 1 missed kick. Every other kick he looked good in. Extra points too. Although they went for 2 on that final touchdown, didn't get it either. Who cares? So that's pretty much it on that part. On defense, you have some of the reliable players like Chaney Jr., who once again 16 total tackles on the night. My gosh. This team kind of had a hard time getting to the quarterback. Kennesaw State's offensive line gave both Amari Jones and Williams enough time in the pocket to make some plays, obviously burn FIU a couple of times. I believe 2 70-plus yard touchdowns by the Owls. Day, 1 in the first and 1 in the, I think, 4th, or maybe, in the, late in the 3rd after that missed field goal. So the secondary got burned a couple of times, but honestly, FIU's defense definitely adjusted in the second half, and they looked great. They looked great in the 3rd quarter. They only gave up a single touchdown, and it was the touchdown after that missed field goal because Ashton Levels was injured as the play was going on. Aside from that, for the majority of the 3rd quarter, they didn't give up anything to the Owls, or they let up nothing for the Owls offense, and it felt like, okay, they were doing their part to help FIU get back into this and potentially win it. The offense didn't pull through, though, when they really needed to, and the special teams didn't pull through when they needed to. It still frustrates me how FIU was not able to score any points off of the turnover on downs that Kennesaw State committed right before halftime. If you score a field goal, or God willing, a touchdown, and you're only down a field goal, entering the second half, we would have seen something like we saw against Florida Atlantic, where they just dominated in the 3rd quarter. But we didn't get to see that because it didn't happen this time. It's a very frustrating loss. Willie Simmons was also evidently frustrated, not happy about it, and it's a bad loss. It's, again, not the worst loss of the season for FIU. There's still plenty of time to turn this around against what should be easier opponents, and I say that very lightly because it is Conference USA. It is the Conference of Madness, especially for these weekday games. But it stings. It also stings because FIU is now 0-3 in football when wearing these Vice uniforms since 2023. And I got to say, I love the Vice look. I love the Vice fields, all the aesthetics. But Jesus, man, maybe schedule these Vice Night games against your FCS opponents, because I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just cursed, but FIU just can't beat. They just can't beat Conference USA teams when they're wearing these uniforms. And again, it's been luck of the draw, where Jenkins was hurt, was out for the second game, and you can't really blame the weather for any of those games, I want to say, but it was actually a beautiful night tonight for football. But yeah, I love Vice U. I love the Vice aesthetic. I think pink and blue is a great color combination. The uniforms this season were great. Not going to knock the creative teams, the EQ teams that obviously put their blood, sweat, and tears into making Vice Night what it is, a nationally televised spectacle. I love it. I absolutely love it, but I want to see them win. I don't want to see Kennesaw State looking to grab photos with the Lamborghini at the end of the game. I don't want to see them do that. I want to see this team win. I want to see them take photos with the Lambos and celebrate, like it's the 1980s. They can't do that. I don't know. Listen, if you believe in curses, if you believe in those kind of things, maybe that's what's hurting FIU, but they cannot win in these Vice uniforms. It's not a university-wide curse. Baseball won a few times in them. Basketball, I don't think they won in them. I'll have to double check. I don't really know. But soccer wins in them every now and then. Football just can't. So I think FIU will be playing an FCS team next season. Schedule the FCS opponent midway through the season and wear them then, okay? So that you give yourself the best opportunity to snap this cursed losing streak in these Vice uniforms. Because, again, I love them. I love all these unique uniform combinations FIU does. The Biscayne Blues are great. The Sunblazer decals they put on the helmets are cool too. I just want to see them win, period. And they didn't do that tonight against Kennesaw State. I'm not too down in the dumps over this loss like I was for those losses against Delaware and UConn, because it was a lot closer. FIU, if they made some plays happen, could have had a chance to win that game. It didn't happen. Kennesaw State's a great team, and there were a lot of areas in this game in which not only did we match well against them, we took them down in some areas. It just wasn't enough. So we'll see what happens next week. Excuse me. FIU heads to Springfield, Missouri, to take on the Bears of Missouri State, who are not having the best of seasons, but they're going to be in it. First year in FBS, not too bad. Certainly not the season that Delaware's having at this point, but that's going to be on the road Wednesday, October the 29th, 8 o'clock. It's going to be another nationally televised game on CBS Sports Network at Plaster Stadium. I hear the vibes are good there, at least. So hopefully that'll be the bounce back game. So let's talk about what's coming up for the Paws Up podcast. First things first, thank you to everyone for the love and support tonight with the content we put out. Between the interviews with Bordeaux, the interview with G-Fed, the coverage of the game itself, and then, hanging out with Kai Millette, Owl Chat podcast, great guy. Hope he gets back safe, not only to his Airbnb, but also back to just outside Atlanta, where Kennesaw is, in case you didn't know. And the Shirtless Gang that grew as the game went on. That was fun. That was great. This is a good trend in college football, unlike banning the tortillas at Texas Tech or the increasing fines and penalties for storming the field. That's all negative crap. But these shirtless men, that was fun to see. Come on, you got to give it to them. That was a good moment in an otherwise not great game. I lost track. What was I? Oh, yeah. Missouri State next week, Wednesday, October 29th. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to have our Paws Up preview drop a few days before, probably on Monday. We're going to get more than likely Maddox from the Growl podcast, the Missouri State podcast, and the CUSA podcast roundtable to hop on for that. Should be fun. And you know what? The overwhelming love and support for the first Paws Up watch party against Western Kentucky was so good. How about I do it again? Yes, I plan on doing yet another Paws Up watch party for this game for Missouri State. And I may or may not be wearing my Halloween costume for that game as well. Spoilers out, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I don't even have it yet, but it should be a lot of fun. That's only a few days before the Halloween. Come on, I gotta be rocking in the costume. Tell you what, in the comments, whoever guesses my costume will get love and support from me. But I do hope you all may check out the Paws Up watch party. I learned a lot about how to host it, what I need to do better, and we'll hopefully make those adjustments, just like the team makes those adjustments. Sound like Willie Simmons now. We need to make those adjustments to be better for the fans, which are you all, who are going to potentially watch the watch party. So we'll get that going then. All right, we'll wrap up shop here. We're already past 20 minutes, and I want to go home because it's over past midnight. FIU loses 45-26. Not the worst loss in the world, but it is what it is. You got to move on. Take on Missouri State next week on the road in the final weekday CUSA game. Wednesday, October 29th, 8 o'clock. I don't think there's any Pause Up podcast episode dropping this week or maybe even next. I'm not sure. But Pause Up preview maybe next Monday, and the watch party during the game. Check it out. All right. I love you all. Have a great rest of the night. Safe drives if you're getting home. And Pause Up always.